1999 Shell Series swings into full endurance mode with the historic first running of the Queensland 500. 500 kilometres of torture, a race distance never before attempted on a new track renowned for its brutality. Brakes, tyres, drivers and pit crews under the blowtorch. The Queensland 500. Ford versus Holden in a supreme battle of team tactics. The final test of endurance before Australia's only 1,000k race. The FAI 1000 at Bathurst, November 14. Double championship points makes today's race twice as important. A chance for one of the leading teams to tighten its grip on the title. A chance for others to become instant threats. This is the test of the best. So welcome to the premiere of the Queensland 500, round 12 of the 99 Shell Championship Series. Live and exclusive to your home of V8 supercars. Network 10.
It's still 500 kilometres. It's still a fascinating contest between dynamic drivers using daring tactics. But this year, the backdrop is sunny Queensland. Hello, I'm Bill Woods and welcome to Queensland Raceway. Welcome to what could be one of the great enduros of all time. We've set it, championship points on offer, double points on offer in this race, which has created enormous interest. For one example, the potent combination for the Mobile Holden racing team of Craig Lowndes and Mark Scaife separated this year in the enduro because they are both chasing a championship. Scaife partnered by Paul Morris, who's been on the pace all weekend. That in itself will be a great combination. Likewise, Lowndes partnered with Cameron McConville, who's also been very quick. So we get two for the price of one. And that is just one of many great battles on this afternoon. We have at least 6 championship contenders involved in this field of 42, and the battles will go right through that very, very deep grid. Welcome once again to Lee Diffie. All the talk this weekend, Lee, has been about tactics and tyres, but no one's really too sure about what the best strategy is.
Well, it will be the ultimate battle of tactics. There's no doubt about that. Some of the teams are already saying that they've never experienced a lead up to an enduro so difficult because there is so much pressure to get that strategy just right, to conserve fuel, to conserve tyres, especially around here, and also their brakes. The big thing is we've never been here for an enduro, so people don't really know whether it's going to be a 2-stop strategy or a 3-stop strategy. But the general consensus is that if a 2-stop strategy wins, it will be an amazing drive. Now, although this weekend the words might be conservation and discipline, we didn't really see that in yesterday's qualifying.
The inaugural Queensland Top 10 shootout, and it was local driver Tony Longhurst first to hit the track. Greg Murphy came out and betted Longhurst's time, while David Truckee Parsons, also driving a Wins Racing prepared Commodore, made the most of a rare moment.
Didn't warm my front tyres up enough and I suffered for it really. But other than that, like, the car feels fantastic and I'm happy enough to be in the top 10 at any rate.
Confusion reigned when Mark Larkham's timing transponder failed.
There appears to be a problem with Larkham's transponder because we haven't had a time show on our official timing screen.
While typically determined, Russell Ingall refused to disappoint team boss Larry Perkins or the fans.
And Ingall goes quickest. 1:11.10. The enforcer has done it.
Yeah, got a few Queensland fans. It's quite nice, but look, Larry is usually the one-lap king, and I'm still learning it. But no, very happy with, like I said, a bit of a cliche, long way to go tomorrow, but we're looking all right.
Garth Tander pushed his new VT to the limit halfway through the session to grab provisional pole.
And the run to the line, let's see how the lanky driver goes. He's quickest. Tander with a 1:10.75. He is the only car in the 110s.
Mark Scaife and Paul Radisich both tried unsuccessfully to topple the 22-year-old from the top spot, while Craig Lowndes sent the HRT hearts pounding during his warm-up lap.
Craig Lowndes with a little bit of a hiccup there before he gets on his quick lap. Let's hope that's not an indicator of what's to come.
Actually, the lap was quite good. I don't think the lead up to the lap was as good as I could have done, but you know, today's obviously now to set the grid and tomorrow's the race, so at least we've got somewhere to look forward to now.
Last man out, another local. This time, Ford's Jason Bright, the fastest man on the track all weekend, attempting to be the only driver to crack 3 pole positions this season.
Comes to the line. Jason Bright does it. He will start the inaugural Queensland 500 on pole position.
Well, Jason Bright, a 1:10.29 and good enough for pole. You must be wrapped.
Oh yeah, we're very happy. You know, the team's been working very hard here. The Pertex Ford's running really well, and it's just credit to all the guys. We've got a very good car at the moment. We've just got to get through this race tomorrow and score some good points.
Recapping those top 10 positions for you, Jason Bright bringing up his 3rd Shell Championship Series career pole position. Keep your eye on his teammate in Baird. He is driving very, very well. Tander and Bargwanna, Scape and Morris, Radicic and Ellery. There's plenty of pressure on the team drivers, on the co-drivers rather. Lowndes and McConville, Perkins and Ingle. Ingle, I'd say, will do the majority of the driving there today. Richards and Murphy and Parsons, they were the real surprise, Billy.
There are 6 Holdens in that top 10, but in the top 20, it's 10 Fords and 10 Holdens, and they all give themselves a chance of winning this afternoon. We'll have more on this great race. There is so much to think about. It's going to be a beauty. We'll be back after the break. One of Queensland's favourite sons. Dick Johnson's 200th Shell Championship round, his final Shell Championship round in Queensland. After this, there's only Honda, Indy and, of course, the FAI 1000 Classic to wrap up a grand career. One of the innovations that CAMS has introduced, we're about to show you in 1999 in pit lane. This is really random breath testing. Now, you can't leave any stone unturned in a technical sport such as motor racing, and Garth Tander, of course, there, making sure, as all the drivers have had to do randomly at various stages throughout the year, that they are okay to turn the engine over for 1999's Queensland 500. The red mist descended on the top 10 shootout yesterday, no question about that, even though every driver admitted they're not too fussed about where they start in this race. Here's Jason Bright, the pole sitter, with Mark Oster. We'll talk about that in just a moment. First, a quick look at the weather, and we have a beautiful day in Queensland. 24 degrees maximum temperature, a little bit of wind around, but really it is going to be a test for the drivers because it's going to be very hot inside the car, and of course tyre temperature is also a major factor. That was probably the biggest concern for Jason Bright when he was going around yesterday trying to sort out setup for this weekend, but of course he was pretty happy to be on pole as well. He's talking to Mark now.
Well, there certainly is such a thing as a home ground advantage at the Queensland 500 if qualifying is anything to go by. Jason Bright taking pole position by 0.46 of a second. Absolutely dominant form. I guess all those practice laps have paid off.
Yeah, we've done a few miles around here now, but the track is changing every time we go out there. There's more rubber down. Sometimes it's hotter, sometimes it's cooler. So, every time we go out, we're still sort of having to tune the car to those conditions.
How relevant is pole position in a 500k race like this? I mean, from outside, it looks more like a high-speed game of chess than a motor race.
Yeah, it's not critical. I mean, we won Bathurst from 15th last year, so, proof's in the pudding. But with this track, the way it's chewing up left rear tyres, you don't really want to be back in 15th, having to pass guys, and you just burn up your left rear tyre trying to do that.
How's Craig fitting into the team?
Craig's been fantastic. He hasn't put a wheel wrong yet. He's the quickest of all the co-drivers in the pit lane. No, he's going very well.
If we see you a bit further back in the pack, or how do you expect to approach this race? You want to lead it from the front, or?
Oh, we'll just have to take it as it comes. We've got the advantage now. We can set the pace, but there's a number of ways we can do that. We can try and make everybody chase us and use up their rear tyres, or we can set the pace and make sure we're going to get through the race. But we'll think about that one tonight.
We'll watch with interest.
Thank you.
Jason Bright's view of the race, but let's see Neil Crompton's view of the race, the driver's eye view of Queensland Raceway.
Here's the inside line on Queensland Raceway. After visiting the place in early July, we now know what to expect from this new circuit. It's a slow to medium speed track that's super smooth, it's very tough on brakes, and it kills the left rear tyre. The layout is straightforward, with 6 turns, a lap distance of 3.1 kilometres, and the direction of traffic is clockwise. Top speed is around 245 k's on the main straight, and the slowest corner is turn 3 at just 80 kilometres an hour. What delivers time here? Well, that's a very difficult question to answer. For peak time, it's important to have great turn and traction in the car. But to consistently survive, graining of the left rear tyre is a problem coming through tight corners like this. Back in July, most of the teams didn't have an answer. 500 kilometres around here will be incredibly gruelling on both driver and machine. Heat, endless traffic and a non-stop workload in the cockpit will take its toll. Circuit highlights, turns 1 and 2 are quite fast and technical, and for the last of the late breakers, turn 3 is a serious test. In terms of hotspots, the track was surrounded by new turf in July and that caused a few hassles. This weekend I still expect no shortage of this kind of action on virtually every corner. Passing spots, Queensland Raceway provides limited passing opportunities at turns 3 and 6. In summary, get set for a long, hard afternoon with more than a few twists in the script before the winners are finally determined.
After the break, we take a team's eye view of pit lane this weekend. It's very, very interesting. We have a special camera set up for you. And, of course, the drivers will be on track for the 500.
On the park and officially open the Queensland Raceway.
There had already been a sprint round here for the Shell Championship Series, but Queensland Premier Peter Beattie officially opens the Queensland Raceway. Marvellous venue and should be a fantastic race today. That puts you in the picture in terms of this event.
A variety of pit stop strategies being considered down here at the moment, I can tell you that. But if you talk to any team manager, they'll tell you that the best place to make up time is right here in pit lane. It's much easier than doing it out there in the circuit. And for that very reason, teams have been madly practicing their pit stops for many weeks now. But some of the teams have a bit of an unusual problem to deal with. A lot of the drivers, whilst they're very evenly matched in terms of speed, are vastly different in terms of height, like Garth Tander and Jason Bargwanna here, for example. Afternoon, boys. Now, to combat the problem, they've developed very closely with Revolution Race Gear this little number here. It's been christened Bargs' dicky seat. Essentially, it's a purpose-built insert. During the course of the pit stop, Garth gets out, Jason jumps in, he pops the insert in and hops behind the wheel just like normal. The only compromise they've had to make is here in the lap belts. These lovely little blue numbers are for Garth, but the beautiful pink ones, they're for Jason.
Their drivers on pole, but the Stone brothers have a big factor in this race, of course, preparing and getting the car ready. We talked about pit lane being the focus. Well, here is really one great way to see the race unfold inside the garage.
Well, there's no doubt about it. One of the best seats in the house for the Queensland 500 today is right there in your armchair at home watching on Network 10. Today we're going to take you right inside the heart of the Pertec racing team and we'll be in touch with team manager Ross Stone throughout the day. Ross, this is a great insight into running an endurance race. What can we expect to hear from you today?
Well, Mark, we'll do everything we can to help you. We've got 4 sets of tyres for the whole race, or for the whole weekend actually, and we haven't decided on our strategy yet, so we'll keep you up to date as we go.
We'll look forward to that. And another great innovation on Network 10 today is this. We call it our helmet cam. It's going to be attached to one of the Pertec team members, and that's going to take us right into the heat of the action, I guess, see what it's like to work on one of these cars during a race.
Yeah, that's right. Gary is going to wear that helmet cam on the right rear tyre, and after he's finished his wheel during brake stops, he'll move to the front, so you'll sort of see how much heat that is all generating in that area.
I'm sure we can look forward to some great pictures today, and best of luck to the Pertec team.
Thanks very much, Mark.
The cars are out, the fans are out, the sun is out. After the break, we will start the 1999 Queensland 500. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Queensland Raceway. We are just moments away from the start of the inaugural Queensland 500. Time to go trackside. Here's Greg Rust.
Well, Lee, I can tell you at the moment, a big crowd in attendance here, and you can start to feel the atmosphere starting to rise here. We're getting very excited. On pole, as we mentioned, Jason Bright. Can you get the run into the first corner and set the pace, do you think?
Oh, we certainly hope so. You know, the Pertec Ford's been working really well this weekend, but today's another day. It's going to be a very long race, and I think, you know, everybody on this grid realises how hard it's going to be on that left rear tyre.
Jason, best of luck today.
Thanks, Greg.
There he is, Jason Bright, on pole for today's race. And with Barry on assignment in the UK, another man joining us in pit lane today, and he's all smiles about it too. Hello and welcome to Trent Higgs.
Thank you very much, Greg. Now, joining Jason on the front row of the grid is Valvoline Cummings driver Jason Bargwanna. Now, Jason, you've brought some impressive form into this meet, including a clean sweep at Winton. How hard will it be to duplicate that kind of speed here?
It's always difficult to try and duplicate that sort of stuff. I mean, obviously we're looking forward to today. The car's working extremely well. I did a long race run yesterday and it looked after its tyres quite well. So Hey, it's going to be fun out there. I can't wait.
What do you think the key is here? Survival?
The key, I suppose, do 500 Ks faster than anyone else.
Okay, thanks a lot. Best of luck.
Not a problem, thanks.
Greg.
On the second row of the grid, Mark Scaife, the first of the Mobile Holden Racing Team Commodores. Mark, there's been a lot of talk about this particular race and just how tough it's going to be. How prepared are you?
Oh, look, we're very prepared. I mean, the car's gone very well through testing and practice. Obviously, we're up at the pointy end somewhere. We need to stay out of trouble, Greg, and sneak around, don't hurt the tyres, and see where it pops out the end. I mean, Peter Brock used to say, if it's your day, it's your day, and that's the sort of race it'll be.
Some people talk about maybe the ego taking over today. You've got to really, I guess, make sure that you really keep that pace to a certain minimum and nurture those tyres.
Well, to be honest, we're race drivers and we usually race. Today, who knows what's going to happen? I mean, we'll have to be very restrained, there's no doubt.
Good on you, Mark. Best of luck.
Thank you.
On the next row of the grid, we've got a man no stranger to such big races like this, former two-time World Touring Car Champion Paul Radisich. Now, Paul, how does this compare to some of the races that you've competed in?
Well, it's all about strategy, and a lot of the races have been short distance, but you know, this type of race is all about strategy, and particularly here at Ipswich, it's all about tyre wear. So, good, consistent, but a good, consistent fast pace is going to win the race.
And you're one of the local teams that tests here. How big an advantage do you think that could play?
But it always helps. We have done a race, one stint distance, so I think we're probably slightly ahead of some of the others here on the grid.
Okay, best of luck.
Thanks a lot.
Down on row 5, Mark Larkham, a little bit further back than I guess you'd like, but today, these sort of positions don't mean anything in endurance terms, do they?
No, I don't really think it'll matter where you start. We're pretty happy to be in the top 10, but I've got to tell you, anxiety has set in. This is really an unknown quantity ahead of us. I think a big part of this race is just going to be conserving tyres. So, we'll try and put some money in the bank for the end of the race.
Brad Jones, your co-driver here today. How quickly has he settled back into things?
Yeah, no problem. We just seem to pair up well. We're probably similar characters in a lot of ways. I'm a bit better looking than he is, and a little bit slimmer in the waist, I've got to say. No, he's a great team player, and we love having him on board.
Good on you, Larko. Best of luck.
Well, as I said earlier, we are just moments away. You see the thumbs up there from one of the Pertec boys to Jason Bright. He sits on pole position. Let's take a look at the Shell Helix grid for the Queensland 500. It is Bright and Baird from pole, Tander and Bargwanna. They sit alongside each other again. Scaife and Morris from 3, Radisich, Ellery from 4, Lowndes and McConville, the second Mobil 1 HRT car, Perkins and Ingle from 6, 7 is Richards and Murphy, and David and Skippy Parsons from 8. That was an outstanding qualifier.
Sure was. Look at the row of Fords here. Larkham and Jones, Longhurst and young Adam Macro joining the Queenslander. John Bow and Jim Richards, very experienced crew there. Seaton and Crompton alongside Dick Johnson and Stephen Johnson. Dick's 200th Shell Series appearance is last in front of a Queensland crowd. Briggs and Lee out of 14. Romano and Mazira had some problems in the warm-up this morning. I believe they're okay. And McDougall and Madecki will start out of 16.
Brabham and Bates in the second of the Ford Tickford Racing AUs. That's one of many new driver combinations. Faulkner and newly crowned Formula Holden champ Simon Wills. McLean and Park, Forbes and Full. Coleman and Ritter in the second Valvoline Cummins car. Kelly and Notsky, the young Lions, are back. Ashby and Reed. And young Queenslander Paul Wheel teaming up with Tassie Tiger Greg Crick.
Capacity field here. Dulman and Cotter in the Gatorade VT. Poole and Scott will team up in the John Deere machine. Row 14, Thorne and Wanless. Osborne and Brett Peters will start out of row 14. Wakefield and Canto, young driving combination there, and Dumbrell and White alongside Cranbrook and Croswell. That's a good combination. Tratt and Alan Jones making his return to V8 supercar competition. They'll start at 32.
It is a big grid. We have got Rod Nash and Dean Wanless, both the Wanless boys here, Dean and Todd. Heath and Luff, Emma Zedis and Wilmington, Emery and Crick, Trimble, Heffernan, Melinda Price returns, the former Castrol Cougar. She is in the Ultra Tune Commodore. Russell and Grant Johnson, Conway and Rick Shaw.
And the rear of the grid, Daniel Miller and Tony Ricciardelli, the WA combination, Smurden and Mal Rose, another man making the return to the V8 privateer ranks. They'll start off the back, but in a race like this, Lee Tiffy, I don't think that's such a problem at the moment.
161 laps, the journey, and the question begs, will they even get anywhere near 161 laps? The general feeling around the paddock and pit lane is that there will be quite a few safety car periods. We have got the in-car cameras for you. This one in the England Perkins car, brought to you by FAI. There's young Steve Johnson sitting in the number 17 Shell Helix Ford. and he'll be teaming up with Dad, but you will see young Steve do the majority of the drives today. Now, that's the Nash Auto Pro Commodore in trouble off the line. Now, they've been having a relatively good run this weekend, so let's hope there's not too many problems and they can get that car going.
Yeah, here's Chris Smurden. He had a problem. They were trying to do an engine change, apparently. Dramas after the warm-up, but he has not made the grid. So Chris Smurden, great shame for the South Australian driver, will not be taking the start. So it's tough before the race has even begun.
Mark Scaife, his in-car, brought to you by Petters. One of many that will bring us all the action from Queensland. It was an eventful sprint round here. Saw Garth Tander take his very first Shell Series win. Who will take out this one today? And more importantly, in view of the whole championship, who will take away the 300 points? It would certainly help this guy, but Mark Larkham and his teammate Brad Jones, not that Brad's counting towards the championship, but Larko is well out of it. He's way back in the high teens. This guy is not out of it. He is in the top 10. It would be a tough ask to win this year's championship, but he is in with a chance.
I've just heard from the pits that Chris Smurden, he's missing off the grid, but he's actually going to the team last-minute frantic preparations. Looks like the car is sitting at pit exit, so he may see the car which qualified last. There it is. The Smurden Rose machine was on the last row of the grid. We thought they might have missed it through that engine change, but it looks like he may make the start.
Bridgestone race analysis on the screen for you now. The starters of 43, that has gone down by 1. Race distance, as we said, 161. Now, the key thing to look at is, now Rod Nash, problems there. He's out of the car. That's a real shame. The thing we must focus on, two things. There is a minimum of 2 pit stops. They are mandatory. That must happen. And a window between lap 48 and 112 is the window where you must make the compulsory brake change. Greg?
Well, Nash is out of the car, Lee, as you can probably see, working frantically under the bonnet. The team tell me the coil lead has come off. He's desperately trying to get it back on so he can get back out on the track.
Yeah, well, that's not a hard job to fix. You just got to plug it back on, but you can see that massive air intake system on top of the engine. It's blocking his access to it. It'd be tragedy if he couldn't get that back on. Such a simple repair. That's just the drama that you have in these endurance races. A simple thing like that can cost you a start.
Well, you can see Nash's car to the infield there. That would be tragedy. You can hear the revs start to rise. We are just seconds away from the start of the Queensland 500, the very first one on this brand new circuit. $6 million invested here just outside of Ipswich at Willowbank. And we are going to see plenty of action this afternoon. As we've said, the key words are conservation and discipline. These guys are going to find it hard to employ some self-discipline because all they are used to is going out and racing hard. We're ready to go. Green flag from the back. You can see the Conway Shore Falcon in view right back around the last corner. Set to go. The Pertec Ford, the Valvoline Cummins Commodore. Away goes Bright. He gets the jump. Ingle swerves out. He's trying to get a clean run. And it's the dive and it's the run into the first corner. Now, Barguana and Tander behind the wheel, slots into third position. It's Bright who leads the way. They all settle themselves through that first turn. You must get through here cleanly. It is no point making desperate moves. You've got to stay out there for the whole 161.
A massive Queensland crowd down at turn 1 watching the inaugural Queensland 500 as the field sorts itself out in the back straight for the first time. Nice clean start. A 500 kilometre enduro. And there's Jason Bright, the man who's been on top of the timesheets all week. But in a massive testing around here, everyone's thinking they have the setup for the race, but who knows? It's so early in this race, and there's a lot of fascinating scenarios to unfold. There's Rod Nash, he got it going.
Excellent stuff. That is tremendous for Rod Nash and Dean Wanless in the Auto Pro Commodore. It's one of the wins cars going through. You will see 3 wins racing Commodores here this weekend. In the first one, Greg Murphy and Stephen Richards. In the second, John Faulkner and Simon Wills. Already a move being put on John Bowes' Caterpillar Ford. That's the Seaton and Crompton FTR AUXR8. Glenn Seaton is starting.
Real game of tactics here. A lot of people are going to be watching the pace of that Pertec Ford. If they had the demon set up for this race, whatever pace they set, everyone will probably follow. First lap down, standing 1:19.79. They believe the race pace, talking up and down pit lane, is going to be around 1 minute 12 and a half, 13 maybe. But we'll wait to see how that unfolds. This track condition changing all the time. It's going to be a real battle of wits and a lot of driver discipline out there.
So many of the drivers were saying, we've got our strategy, we know what time we have to run per lap. If they bolt, we're going to let them go, no problem. Ellery and Radicic, it is Radicic behind the wheel for this first stint. He makes the inside move on the Valvoline Cummins Commodore, so they drop back to fourth. That's Garth Tander, and they're one of the teams I'm talking about. They said, we know what we have to do, we know the car will stay good, I'm not worrying about the others.
Down through this tight twisting section, turn 4 up to turn 5. We're on board Mark Skaife's car. They're on board with Mark Skaife in the cockpit as he hammers through the gears, shifting back, turn 5, points it into pit straight once again. So just a little bit of posturing, a little bit of mind game going on here as these guys just look at each other's position, check each other out. The tactics come into play. It's going to be a fascinating duel. Radicic down the inside. He's starting to book a push on now. Mark Skaife would be happy to let him go. I'm sure these early laps is just a chance to check out who's doing what. A 1:14.2 for our race leader, Jason Bright. He's bringing it down. Let's see if that race pace gets hotter.
That's the thing, if it remains there, won't we? Already Radicic, he was the quickest that last lap with a 1:13. He was also quickest this morning in morning warm-up. Paul Radicic is doing a very good job. Inside move here. This is Garth Tander. Just tucking up the inside of the number 2 Mobil 1 car of Mark Skaife. So they move back up to third now. Russell Ingall hanging round.
Down toward turn 4 once again. Bargwanna hard on the brakes. He just holds that car up in that leading bunch. So it's Bright, Skaife, Radicic, Bargwanna, Ingall, Lowndes sitting back in the pack. Longhurst, Stephen Richards in the Wins Commodore, Mark Larkham, Glenn Seaton in the first of the factory Fords, up in 10th position. Bargwanna, it's going to be interesting to watch the progress of the Gary Rogers Motorsport team. They test at Winton Motor Raceway down in rural Victoria. This team were absolutely dominant at the Shell Series sprint round earlier in the year. And the nature of this track and its track surface very, very similar to the Winton layout. A lot of people are thinking maybe they're going to be strong. Oh, problem here for Smurden. He's having a wretched day. Started from pit lane. Very late engine change before the start of the race. And looks like those problems, yeah.
Well, they've been experiencing problems all weekend in the IT Services Commodore, so they are just continuing. Now, Bargwanna yesterday put in about 25 solid laps, all in a similar time zone, and said that they can just keep on pumping that out. So this looks ominous for the Valvoline Cummins Commodore. Bargwanna currently sits third behind Radicic and Bright. 2 cars up front. This is their home test track, Bright and Radicic. Skaife back in 4th. Ingall, Lowndes is 6th. Longhurst is 7th. Larkham is 8th. Stephen Richards in the Wins Commodore is running 9th. Glenn Seaton in the first of the FTR cars is in 10th position.
Paul Radicic in 2nd place. Fastest man in the warm-up this morning. They normally do that on a race setup. And the Shell team, like the Pertec Ford, spent a lot of time grinding around here in practice. Over 1,200 kilometres of development mileage put in here by the team.
Well, it's not only the Nash Commodore, or rather the Smurden Commodore in the pits, also Simon Emmazides' Falcon is there, Greg.
Yes, unfortunately, the Emmazides Falcon has developed some sort of mess. The team are trying to determine just what's causing it at the moment. And for Smurden, what they seem to think has happened there is that they rush this engine change so much that the car may be slightly overheating. It mightn't have enough water in it.
Yeah, simple things can go wrong. Drama upon drama at this early stage of the race. We're only 4 laps in. Bright's done another one, a 1:13.49, so time settling down. The last 2 laps have been in the mid 1:13 second bracket. So it's going to be fascinating to see what pace the leader can run at to make the tyres hang together on this track.
Well, not so long ago we had quite a bit of cloud over the circuit and the track temperature dropped some 6 degrees. You can see now it is very sunny and it is quite a warm day here at Willowbank. And I would say track temperature is on the way back up. That is not helping the tyre predicament at all. We'll wait and see. They're all nicely, tightly bunched. And you go right through for the top 20 cars are all in the 1:13 bracket.
Well, Chris Smurden, we've seen him in trouble, apparently losing oil. So hopefully Chris and Melrose can get back into this battle. Well, that's looking pretty terminal. You don't want those sort of dramas at any stage during the race, but this early, absolutely heartbreaking stuff. Radicic Looks like he's closing the gap a bit to our race leader. This is an aggressive run by the 36-year-old Kiwi. He's very confident with the race setup of this car. He's going to take it right up to Jason Bright as they brake hard at the end of the back straight from 240 kilometres an hour, from 6th gear back to 3rd. And Radicic is getting very, very close to the Pertec Falcon.
Well, if you look at the law of averages for the 36-year-old Kiwi, he is due for a great race. Of course, we saw him start on pole at Symonds Plains in Tasmania early in the year. A little bit of smoke there from Bright's car.
It's just been a bit of a brake lock-up.
Yeah.
And that's something you can't afford to do here with only 16 tyres to go the distance. You have to treat everyone like a piece of crystal glass. It's so valuable. Keep in mind, if these teams have to dip into a 17th tyre, a 60-second penalty is added to their race time. So it's very, very important that you make these 16 tyres go the distance.
Keeping in mind, too, a 1-minute penalty, and a lap around here is just a little over a minute. Let's do a lap with the enforcer Russell Ingall in the Castrol Commodore. This is Queensland Raceway.
This pack is closing up. Paul Radicic all over the back of the Pertec 4, but you've got Bright, Radicic, Bargwanna, Scaife, Ingall. Lowndes coming into the battle too, but the fastest man on the track last time around was Mark Larkham back there in 6th position. A 1:12.7. He's the first guy to drop into the 1-minute 12-second bracket. Keep in mind, the lap record here is a 1:11.00 set by Garth Tander during his winning performance during the Sprint Series round here early in the year. So still a long way from lap record pace.
Lowndes moves up into 6th position behind Ingall. Now Larkham back to 7th. Seaton, Richards, Stephen Johnson up into the 10 now. Dougal McDougall, who's sharing the drive with Andrew Madiki this weekend. Bowers in 12th. Longhurst is 13th. The Parsons combo. That is Truckee, who's starting the race. He is in 14th at present. John Briggs, team with young Tim Lay, round out the top 15.
Well, this is getting like one of those NASCAR races you see on those high-speed ovals in the States. The leaders just sitting in the lead drive, the lead pack. They just got to stay on that lead lap, see who wilts first.
As we said at the top of the show, this is the ultimate tactical battle. Each team has a different strategy, and we will see at the end of 161 laps. It's been reasonably incident-free so far. Who is the master of that tactical battle? Bright and Baird lead the way from Radicic, Bargwanna, Scaife, Ingall, Lowndes, Larkham, and Seaton. That's your top 8. Richards, Steve Johnson, and Dougal McDougall just outside that top 10. More right after this. Welcome back to a double leading change in the Queensland 500 for 99. First, Paul Radicic goes up the inside of Jason Bright to put the Shell Helix Falcon in front. Drama just behind them moments later when Mobile Holden Racing Team driver Mark Scaife came into contact here. First it was Bright and Bargwanna dicing. This is Bargwanna. Oof. And then Bright contacting with Scaife and major problems looming for him. Mark Scaife did come into the pits and has since gone 1 lap down. Here's another angle, and the contact there between the Mobil 1 car and the Pertec car sent Scaife spinning onto the infield at a very early stage in this 500-kilometre battle. And Scaife, as we said, has gone 1 lap down. This is our new race leader, Jason Bargwanna in the Valvoline Cummins Commodore. He leads the way on lap 12.
Yeah, boy, it all happened in the break. Snuck past Paul Radicic. Look at that, Russell Ingall on the charge too. Now, Radicic back to 3rd position. Bright still up there in 4th. But I don't know what happened there. Misunderstanding between Mark Mark Scaife and Jason Bright. Bright was slow coming out of turn 4. Scaife clipped him. Scaife's back into the pits. Now look at the damage on the front guard there. Greg Rust is on the spot.
Well, Mark, the car came in during the course of the ad break after that unfortunate crash. Now the car has sustained a lot of damage to the front right. They tried to fix it before he went out before. The boys are looking at lower ball joints, control arms. It looked like they're telling Scaife to give them a description of exactly how the car feels. The car was almost crabbing at the front when it came down pit lane. They've already thrown on 4 fresh tyres, but at the moment the concern is this this handling of the car. Mark, I don't know if you can see him, but he is very disappointed right now.
Yeah, you would be too. I guess already look at him shaking his head. Big plans for the Queensland 500. Challenging for the lead of the Shell Championship Series with his teammate Craig Lowndes, and look at that head hung low. A picture speaks 1,000 words.
Well, the thing is that if Craig Lowndes goes on and takes the double points, the 300, as we have a look at the Shell Helix replay, bang, that right front. I don't know what happened there, whether Jason Bright missed a gear or something. He was very slow coming out of turn 4. Scaife, well, I was going to say he's lucky he didn't clout that marshal's post there, but look at the damage to the car. Lower ball joint, the boys are saying. Part of the suspension damage, and that is very, very time-consuming stuff. He's already many laps down on the leader, Jason Bargwanna. So it just goes to show you can have the best preparation, best team built around you. A little incident like that can take you out of a major race, a major championship. Well, that's the thing we were talking about, is that if Lowndes goes on and takes the double points, the 300, and Scaife, well, as we see, Mark is already in a lot of trouble. Here's another passing manoeuvre. This is Seaton on Larkham, the 2 forward runners. That will be just disastrous for Mark in terms of the 99 Shell Championship Series. Let's hope he can get back out there. The race still very, very young, but valuable time lost. Seaton now moves up into 5th position in car 5. So it's Bargwanna, Ingle, Radicic and Bright. Seaton's making a good move. They've been struggling with grip all weekend. They haven't found the setup they like in terms of performance, but the positive factor is that the tyres aren't graining up. They're avoiding that problem. And in a long-distance race like this, okay, maybe the car doesn't have as much grip, maybe it's not as fast as the hot shots in qualifying, but if that car's not graining up its tyres, that's what you need for 500 kilometres around this place. Well, for about the last 3 laps in a row, Jason Bargwanna has gone 1 minute 13.1. 1 minute 13.1. Lap after lap. He is very consistent at the moment. So too is Ingle sitting there. We go back down and have a look at pictures from the pits. This is the number 2 Mobil 1 Holden Racing Team Commodore of Mark Scaife, and the guys are working frantically. As you can see, the damage to the front right. Going to pull that whole brake disc and caliper assembly off. Looks like they're going for a new lower suspension arm. That was a hard hit. It's bent the suspension. There's Paul Morris. And it looks like a very disappointed Paul Morris is without Greg Rust.
Well, Paul, at the moment, this is not where the Mobil Holden Racing team wanted this particular car. Just tell us exactly what Mark's had to say to you.
I haven't spoken to him, but I saw the replay, and Bargwanna passed Brighty, and Brighty was at a very slow entry speed, and Mark was committed to the corner and just tagged him on the left rear, and it's bent the lower arm on the car.
The obvious question, the boys are working frantically here at the moment. Can they repair it and get it back out there?
Well, they'll repair it all right, but we'll be nowhere in the race, but we'll just have to see what we want to do from here, really.
You had high hopes, I know. Hard luck, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Mark Scaife has already gone 4 laps down, and it just keeps getting worse. Make it 1 more. It's 5 laps down as of now. The leaders have crossed the start-finish line. As we go on, it is still Bargwanna, and yet another 1:13.1. He is so consistent at present. Ingle, Radicic and Bright.
Congratulations to Barry Bright of Oak Park, Victoria, our 10th Ford competition winner. He wins the Ford Tickford Racing Pack. And certainly having a lot more luck today than Mark Scaife and Paul Morris.
Well, looking out the back of the Mitre 10 Ford, there's the car that carries the hopes of the Mobil Holden Racing team in the Queensland 500 and indeed the Shell Championship Series. A critical round, this twice as important because it's got double the points. Craig Lowndes and Cameron McConville carrying the weight now of the Holden factory team. Top place privateer at the moment is Rodney Forbes, and not too far behind is Greenfield Mowers Ford driver and Cameron McLean. This weekend teaming up with fellow Queenslander Wayne Park. Jason Bargwanna, another one controlling the pace, it seems, from the front. Fastest man on the track the previous lap, a 1:13.6. He drops it back half a second. A 1:14 neat for Bargwanna Ingle, a 1:14.04. There's some quick guys around there. They're all hovering around the mid-13, high 13, low 14. By the time they thought the pace was going to be about a mid-12, it just shows how difficult it is under a race condition compared to testing around here.
Yeah, they're all dropping it back, aren't they? I'll tell you, someone who is going well is the second Ford Tickford Racing AU of Jeff Brabham, the 1993 Le Mans 24-hour winner. A move going on here. This is Murphy on the inside. Nice move. So he slips up there. Now we just double checking our timing monitor here, and it is Stevie Richards in the car. Yes, it is. We just let's try and get a sneak peek of the helmet there. So the Wins Racing team, that is the highest place of their three cars here this weekend. John Faulkner is further back, and John is suffering from quite a bad back this weekend.
Looks like Richards slowly closing in. A nice move on Lowndes to move up the order. Lowndes obviously driving quite a disciplined race. And he slipped back a couple of positions. Jeff Brabham in the second of the FTR Fords has passed Lowndes that time around. He drops back to 9th. Stephen Johnson doing the opening stint at Shell 17. He's up to 10th. It's Dougal McDougall, John Bower in the Caterpillar Ford sitting back there in the top 12. David Parsons, Tony Longhurst, Cameron McLean. The first of the privateers up there in 15th position.
Stevie Richards slipping up the inside, so he's gone another position. So Richards moves up one higher again. He's now into 6th position. Larkham not too perturbed, and we've seen most overtaking manoeuvres like that have given them plenty of racing room. And we're slipping back down into the 13s. Bargwanna with a 1:13.8. It's all fairly mixed up. Cameron McLean back in 15th position. He has moved Rodney Forbes back to 16th. McLean is now top privateer at present, just in behind Tony Longhurst. An outstanding effort by the Siemens Mobiles team of Paul Romano and Thomas Mazira to get that car here, and we see slipping up the inside Jeff Brabham. He's on a real forward surge.
He really is. You've been watching him climbing up through the times there.
Just behind, he qualified 17th, and he's now up into 7th.
Yeah. Well, they've been working very, very hard. I think Glenn Seaton was frustrated with the progress they were making on the cars throughout the week. Didn't have the outright speed. But they're looking stronger and stronger as this race wears on. Dougal McDougall up the inside of Stephen Johnson. Lets him through in the ex-Larry Perkins built Wayne Gardner Commodore. So Dougal McDougall doing a good job in the opening laps. John Bow too. Lap 18 completed. Bargwanna, the leader, still 1:13.8, 1:14 for Ingle. So times hovering around the high 13, low 14 mark. There's Cameron McLean, the first of the privateers. Absolutely brilliant, dominant job in the V8 Privateers Drivers' Championship this year. That carrying that form up right up to this race.
That move was for 14th. He's now battling with Stephen Johnson for 13th. So McLean on a forward move also. It's pretty tight there. Rodney Forbes. McLean's drifted wide. He's lost 1, maybe 2. He's going to have to be careful not to contact there. Good driving by Rodney Forbes. He used all of the ripple strip to give McLean some room as well. So the position he took away from Tony Longhurst, he just gave back. Will be very interesting to see how young Adam Macro goes, Formula 4 champ of 2 years ago. He's teamed up with Tony this year in the Castrol AU XR8. Tony has given him a lot of responsibility, but has big raps on the young guy.
Down through turn 1, Longhurst on the attack. Stephen Johnson just obviously driving to a controlled pace. We hope there's no problem with the car, but he's letting cars through all the way around. Maybe they have a very strictly determined race plan. We will find out after 500 kilometres around here. Rodney Forbes, the Sydney privateer, the man who took the fight up to Cameron McLean in the Privateers Championship this year. They're running nose to tail. They go on board with Stephen Johnson. There's Forbes up the inside in the ex-Wayne Gardner Racing Commodore. So the privateers on the charge in the opening laps of the Queensland 500.
Here's a Shell Helix replay. This is Dougal McDougall, the Yellow Quench VT, giving the Cat Ford of John Bow a little bit of a nudge. Oof. How you going? And he slips through on the inside.
Yeah, that moved him up to 10th position. Bow was sitting in the top 10. he drops back a slot. So at the moment, just these teams posturing, moving around, everyone trying to find what is the hottest pace you can run here without frying your tyres.
Let's have a look at the Shell Helix race score. It's time to go to a break. It is Bargwanna who still leads the way in the Valvoline Cummins Commodore. Ingalls sitting in second. Everything's fairly sedate at the moment. Radicic in the top three from Bright and Seaton. The FTR AUXR8s are looking great. Both of those cars together. Brabham doing a tremendous job from 17th to 6th. He is doing a brilliant job. Back in 8th is Larkham, just behind Stephen Richards. Lowndes, Bow, McDougall. Truckee Parsons is behind the wheel at the moment. Steve Johnson, Longhurst, McLean, and Rodney Forbes rounding out the top 16. Paul Romano, keep an eye on him. He's going very well at the moment in the Siemens Mobiles car. Now, speaking of cars, if you'd like to win one, take a look at this.
Well, the drama is happening already, even earlier than anticipated here in the Queensland 500 for 1999. That's Jason Bright, the pole sitter, who's just made a pit stop because the field is under a yellow flag. Danny Osborne's left the track. That's slowed them down. Mark Skaife has rejoined the race. He's 12 laps down. His championship rival and teammate Craig Lowndes is in 9th place, 22 points ahead of Skaife in the championship. Keep an eye on Skaife. Can he get any points out of this race? Can Lowndes win it and seal the whole thing? But here's Osborne's incident.
The Shell Helix replay, the Queensland are parking it in the gravel. Now, the most important thing to come out of all of this is that the Bright Pertec Ford was the first to come in. It was the one to make advantage and make the most of that safety car. First up, after 24 laps, Bright in.
Yeah, well, Bright.
And making the most of it.
He's gone to the back of the queue. He was just coming out of the pits when the safety car was coming past the pit exit. And under the rules, they have to hold the car in pit lane until the whole field's gone through. So he goes on to the back of the queue. But that's one compulsory pit stop up on everyone else. So Ross and Jim Stone choosing to call Bright in early. It was interesting watching Jason Bright in those opening laps. He set the pace for the first few. And then after that collision with Skaife, he just sat back in that leading four. Doing the same sort of times as the race leader, but he was running obviously a little bit more conservatively. Maybe it's a chance for them to check out the form and the tyre condition of the other teams around them. Make sure they really are on the ball with their race plan. There he is, right at the back of the queue when the cars go back to green racing conditions.
Holden fans and Mobil 1 fans, your man Mark Skaife has gone down some 13 laps from that collision with Jason Bright. And is back on track. That's the good news. There he is, but a very disappointed Mark Skaife. But you can bet one thing, he will be a very determined Mark Skaife as the colour scan Falcon is assisted out of the sand trap. The Osborne-Peters combination back on the road.
It's interesting, Bright making that early stop, isn't it? Remember the opening laps of the FAI 1000 at Bathurst last year? Ross and Jim Stone chose to bring that car in very early, and you get that leapfrog situation where, sure, you go back in the pack, and then everyone else has to make their regulation stops, and all of a sudden you move right up to the front of the grid, and you've also one step up on everyone else. So not a bad tactic. Most teams look at the safety car period as an opportunity to come in and do tyre changes and brake pad changes, driver changes, whatever, under safety car period, because the race pace has come right down to a snail's crawl, and that's the best time to do it because you lose the least amount of time.
Under safety car conditions in endurance races, the rules change from the Shell Championship Series sprint rounds, whereby in the sprint rounds under safety car, the first 5 laps don't count. In endurance races, they do. So the lap board keeps on ticking over. As we see the field, it's been reasonably sedate so far. They've been a little cagey. We've seen a big forward move by Jeff Brabham in the second Ford Tickford Racing AU. He has come from 17th up into 5th. He's been the biggest mover so far, and Bargwanna has been very consistent.
Lights are off on the safety car as he comes through the final turn onto pit straight.
Should be just just about ready to go under green. Yes, we do. We're back under racing conditions. Bargwanna, he gets the early jump on Russell Ingall. That's car in between is the Conway Ford.
Gosh.
We are back under race conditions.
There's a huge gap there, isn't it? I know Tim Schenk and Clark, of course, in the driver's briefing, telling everyone to bunch right up before that safety car peels off. Well, there was a massive gap there, 100 metres or more, which is a big disadvantage for the field. Bargwanna really gets the hammer down.
There it is there. Look at the gap there, second to third.
Ingall goes with him, Radicic in third, and the two factory forwards, the FTR Falcons, Glenn Seaton and Jeff Brabham. And that's a great sight, heartening sight for the Ford fans in the opening laps of the Queensland 500. Dougal McDougall up the inside of Craig Lowndes. They're battling for 8th position. A bit further back in the pack, Chucky Parsons. Now, this is what we saw before. The cars are going back to racing conditions. Lowndes quite happy to let people through. He's been just hovering around the back of the top 10. Now, whether that's a very disciplined race plan he's driving to or whether he's struggling with maybe a lack of tyre grip, we'll find out as this race unfolds. And he is carrying the weight of the Mobile Holden racing team at Queensland this afternoon.
And he has dropped now out of the top 10. McDougall and David Parsons, that's Truckee Parsons, have gone ahead now. An FTR car came into the pits there. We'll see what number that is.
That's
that is a Seaton. Yep, so Seaton is in early also. But
27 laps completed. Well, it's going to be fascinating to see what these other teams do. If you were going to run a two-stop strategy, you had to at least get about 53, 54 laps out of your tyres for the first stop. Well, they're nowhere near that.
Well, that's what the general consensus was. If this was going to be one on a two-stopper, it would be an exceptional effort, Greg.
Well, Glenn Seaton choosing to remain behind the wheel at the moment. 4 tyres going on. They're going to top up 120 litres of fuel. The only thing that's running through my mind is why he didn't come in during the course of that safety car period. The question is, did he perhaps read the situation wrong?
Only time will tell. Tactics are really going to win this motor race. Reliability, speed, controlled aggression, and tactics. Who's got it right? Oh, hang on, we've got a problem here. Bonnet going up on the number 5 car. That's not a good sign when you're only 27 laps into a 161 lap contest. Feverish work going on.
We can see Neil Crompton bending over there talking to Glenn. Now Lowndes has gone past Mark Larkham. He is back up into the top 10. So it's Bargwanna, Ingall, Radicic, Brabham, Richards, Larkham 6th, McDougall 7th, Parsons 8th, Lowndes 9th, Bowers in 10th as the Conway Ford drops a wheel off the circuit. It's very, very congested in that top 10. Just outside of the top 10 is Tony Longhurst, the third car in frame there.
Well, this was the concern of the leading drivers. Another point raised in the drivers' briefing. A number of drivers here are V8 rookies. Not a very experienced at racing in this competition, such a tight little track like this. But dramas for Glenn Seaton in pit lane, Greg Rust.
It certainly was, Mark. He's just leaving pit lane now. A lot of time lost in pit lane here. What has happened? It looks as though it's some sort of electrical problem. The boys working on both the leads and one of the spark plugs.
Well, as Seaton exits the pit lane, we see an inside move on Larkham, courtesy of Tony Longhurst, and Cameron McLean is lining up for his go also. So it's fairly frantic around that top 10 mark between Larkham, Bow, Longhurst, McLean, and Rodney Forbes has stuck right with his privateer arch rival Cameron McLean just outside that top 10. 15th, and is a very good effort at the moment, Paul Wheel in the K&J Radiators Falcon, teaming up for this race with Greg Crick.
Jason Bright, meanwhile, after taking the opportunity to make that stop, he's back in 28th position. A 1:15.7. His first flying lap back under green flag conditions. He's got a new set of tyres on the car. He's got to be very conscious of not working those too hard as he weaves through the traffic. It's just so critical here. The more you weave and duck and lean on the tyres, the harder it is on the rubber. And this is the battle for the lead. Jason Bargwanna forced his way through the lead in the opening laps. And Russell Ingall in the Castrol Commodore. Well, you can never take your eyes off Larry Perkins and Russell Ingall, can you? Larry's had a shocking sprint series so far, but whenever it comes to the Enduros, the eyes come on.
Well, the gap now closing between the two leading Commodores. Here is the Enforcer. He is super fit at the moment. He's been working very hard. And looking forward to the Enduros. Now, let's not forget, he is a championship contender at the moment. Russell Engel sits third on 1,288 points, not that far behind Craig Lowndes, the series leader. Now, it's getting tight up front here. The leading car, the number 34 car, as indicated, this is the Tander car. This is the newest of the two Valvoline Cummins Commodores. This is the one that was debuted only a number of rounds ago, Forgarth Tander. And Ritter and Coleman, the two new boys to the Valvoline team. Gary Rogers has put them in Bargwanna's number 35 car.
The enormously experienced Jeff Brabham, right behind Paul Radisich, two very experienced drivers, battling it out for third position in the Queensland 500. Jeff Brabham, without doubt, one of our most decorated international Aussie race drivers. Former Le Mans winner, of course, with Peugeot back in 1993. Former Sandown 500 winner. 3 times winner of the IMSA GTP series in the United States. He's had experience in IndyCar racing. He's an enormously talented and experienced driver, and he's putting all that to good use here. He's in 4th position, and it just shows. In qualifying, you just can't take your eyes off anyone in that field. They've just been right down the back of the top 20 all throughout the week, and now when it counts, they're in the top 5.
Well, let's not forget that Jeff started almost 100 IndyCar races. He finished second 6 times. He has got a truckload full of experience. And this just goes to show how professional and how talented he is. He hasn't driven a V8 supercar besides a very small amount of testing. Rodney Forbes has gone. Wow, the PPG Commodore Forbes has gone in a cloud of dust, but comes back on. That looks like it was down at turn 3. Yep, Forbes back on.
Could this be the privateers starting to run into tyre dramas before the level 1 teams?
Well, they were pushing quite hard. Forbes was staying with McLean. Who knows? That's it's a little difficult to judge from here. Here's the Shell Helix replay.
Well, time will tell as this race wears on. 31 laps down of 161. We've seen a few privateers spinning off into the dust and the gravel traps around this circuit. Could this be an indication of things to come for our Top Guns as they run out of tyres in this incredibly grueling contest? We're back on board with Russell Engel. He can sniff the lead of the Queensland 500.
He sits second behind Jason Bargwanna. Radisich is happy to remain in third, and Brabham from 17th to 4th, but is yet to pit. Richards, McDougall, Lowndes and Truckee Parsons in the 73 Challenge Recruitment VT. Bow, Longhurst, McLean, Larkham. Now, we would have seen Forbes, but he has dropped courtesy that spin. And the Coleman Ritter, the second of the Valvoline Cummins Commodores, is in the top 16. That's a good effort. Keep in mind, those two guys are rookies. They have never raced a V8 supercar. They're doing a good job, and we'll be back on the other side of this.
61 laps, 500 kilometres and 300 championship points on offer, and yet 3 championship contenders are already in big strife in the Queensland 500. After 35 laps, Seaton, Bright and Scaife are way down the track. Bright in the best position. He's up to 24th now, but how much drama is unfolding here? There is another championship contender, but he's in a great spot. Russell Engel, second to Jason Bargwanna.
Big dust patch there. The Mitre 10 lap counter, 36 of 161. Someone has gone off there as these guys, they appear to be slowing just a touch. And here is why. It is the John Trimble entry running right off. Now that looks like he's just run out of brakes. Trimble's car. There you go. Front end.
Has it got a flat tyre?
Flat tyre, yeah.
Might be.
That would make sense.
So John Trimble straight on. Down at turn 1. So he's stranded right out in the Sahara there. Massive area there to arrest cars that are out of control. 230 kilometres an hour on the approach to that corner. It's nice to know you got that safety blanket out there, but he's gone way, way out. Here comes John Bauer in the Caterpillar Ford. 36 laps completed.
Jimmy Richards is getting ready too. There we go. Watch Jimmy, the driver change. They were very slick. Trent Higgs.
Yes, at the moment we've got John Bauer jumping out of the car and Jim Richards getting back into it. It looks like the Cat team are taking no chances with tyres. They've put a new set of tyres on. They're also topping up the fuel. So it looks like a pretty slick stop here.
Well, that's what you can expect from the Cat team, especially two very experienced campaigners. I was talking with Deb, John Bow's partner, and she said that Jimmy has had a very calming influence on the team, Greg.
Everything going very smoothly down here at the moment for Mark Larkham and Brad Jones. Brad is already behind the wheel. Larko is out of the car. The tyres look to be in fairly good condition, I must say, guys. The tyres that came off Jason Bright's car looked a little more shabby than this one, so we're going to have to keep a close eye on how the tyres are going. Now, this has gone a little longer than they've expected. Problems for the front left. 37 seconds for the Mitre 10 team at the moment. This is not the slick sort of stop they were looking for at this point in the race.
That is much longer than they've practiced, much longer than expected. Now, Brad Jones, there's problems for Brad there. Now he gets going. There was a little bit of a hiccup and he was indicating behind his helmet there, but he's back out. He tucks in behind the Anthony Tratt, Alan Jones, Toll Falcon, and they get going again. Back out on the circuit, a driver change. It was a bit of flurry there. This is the second safety car we have seen so far, and as predicted, I think we will see many today. The Yellow Quench VT Commodore going through there. What an outstanding effort by Dougal McDougall.
It really is an extraordinary effort by Dougal. Car prepared by Larry Perkins Racing. Has indeed the David and Skippy Parsons machine. Even though they've bought the car, part of the deal is prepared by Fred Gibson.
So you hope the rope's long enough.
Yeah. I think they're running out of rope. Look.
They're going a long way.
That's how far off the road Trimble went. So they're going to have to get a longer bit of rope or stick the four-wheel drive into the sand. But it's going to be quite a while before they pull Trimble out of that mess.
Get down there, Marco. Your arms will be long enough to stretch that. All right, we're under our second safety car period. We'll take a short break. Currently, Bargwanna still leads the way. Ingle is chasing and is beginning to menace. Paul Radisich currently sits third. Brabham in fourth in the first of the Ford Tickford cars. Stephen Richards is there. Lowndes running sixth. McDougall is up there. And the Parsons combination.
Welcome back to Queensland Raceway, still under yellow, but not for long. More pit stops have taken place while they've been on.
Yeah, it's been very frantic. We've seen some driver changes. Currently, it is Bargwanna who leads the way. Look, there is the Pertec Ford. This is the John Trimble. Chef's on the run entry, trying to limp back to the pits. We've seen a flat tyre, a little bit of damage to the front left. He's doing his best to try and limp back.
Well, it's very critical that he does limp back, Lee, because under these race regulations, the car has to get back under its own power, get that drive back to the pits under its own power, not to be disqualified. So it's very important for Trimble to try and limp it back on that flat tyre. And that's what we're waiting for under this safety car situation. Trent Higgs.
I'm down the Wins Racing pit where the team of John Faulkner and Simon Wills have made an unscheduled stop. John has back problems. John, can you tell us some more?
Yeah, look, it's pretty hard getting out of a good race car, but it's just excruciating. Every time I brake, the pain just shears up my back. And when that happened in Adelaide in the endurance race, I nearly crashed the car. So I thought it's better to come in now while there's a few safety cars and put Simon in the car, because I'm sure I'll do a better job at the moment. But I've got a Cairo waiting here, so maybe I'll get some help.
So what's the plan? You go and get some work done on it and then get back out there, hopefully?
Oh, yeah, look, I feel really good. It's just that when I brake, it just screaming pain goes into my back. So I'm just not good for the car at the moment. It's not fair on the team to stay in it.
Okay, well, commiserations. I hope it gets better.
Thank you.
He's not the only one in the John Deere VT Commodore. Mark Poole has had to jump out of the car and put Tony Scott in because exactly the same problem. He's got a nerve problem, putting a lot of pressure on his back, and when he presses the brake or the accelerator, whenever he's got to extend, it's really putting him in a lot of pain. The doctor is with him right now, so that's two guys out with some back problems. Greg?
Well, the game of strategy, Lee, is happening down here in pit lane at the moment. I'm with Campbell Little, the chief engineer for the Stones Brothers Pertec Racing team. Now, Campbell, you brought in Jason a little earlier than what most would have thought. Tell us your ploy there.
Well, we didn't really have a ploy. There was a bit of an ambitious overtaking move early in the race. Took a smack in that left rear wheel. The tyre we're concerned about all weekend, and he's complaining the car was handling a little off, so we thought we'd better come in while we had the chance and have a look at it. He's much happier with the car now. But obviously we paid the price for it. What can we do? We're still on sort of schedule for where we wanted to be. A lot of cars didn't stop in that pit stop in that pace car as well. So I think we'll be right. We'll be there.
Very quickly, I noticed that you and Jim were a little concerned about the shape of the tyres that came off the car. Are they okay?
Yeah, looking at some of the other cars around too, the left rear is getting punished, as everyone knew it would, and we think we have altered the rear wheel alignment a little bit with that punch. So
we'll check in with you later.
Back to racing conditions in the Queensland 500. Full green flag as the field launched back into racing. This great battle between Jason Bargwanna and Russell Ingall. It's been going on for many laps now. Lap 40 of 161. Jason Bargwanna and Russell Ingall locked in this tremendous tussle. Paul Radicic 1.2 seconds behind. Ingall looks like he really wants to take the lead of this thing. Up the inside of Bargwanna as they reach top speed, maximum speed on the Queensland track. Has a look up the inside. He goes deeper under brakes than Bargwanna, and Ingall takes over the lead.
Well, smart driving there by Jason Bargwanna and good driving by Russell Ingall, but Bargwanna doesn't need to get tangled up in a duel with Russell Ingall at the moment. If the enforcer wants to take the pace out, let him go. And if Russell feels they've got the perfect setup, they can conserve their tyres and they've got their strategy worked out, well, so be it. If you want to make it all the way to the end, can't afford to get caught up with too many battles at the moment, pushing too hard. There is the number 1 Mobil 1 Holden Racing Team Commodore, Craig Lowndes, not too far down the track. We will see him hand over to Cameron McConville, and he is right on reigning Bathurst champ Stephen Richards.
I'll tell you what's interesting too is the two cars that are fighting it out for the lead of this race both have Winton Motor Raceway down in Victoria as their nominated test track. A lot of people have said this track and Winton have a lot of similarities in terms of track surface, layout, and the demands on setup. They're the two cars that are dominating the race at the moment, but we've got a long, long way to go. Paul Radicic, Jeff Brabham back there in 3rd and 4th positions. So a tremendous tussle. Craig Lowndes trying to find his way through the traffic. He's in 6th position. Looking up the inside of Stephen Richards in the Wins Commodore. Lowndes goes deeper under brakes, takes him. So Lowndes now starting to pick up the pace and apply a bit more pressure in the Mobil 1 Commodore. And Dougal McDougall, outstanding drive.
Well, another very good drive too. Back in 12th position is the K&J Radiators car of Paul Wheel. Teamed with Greg Crick, he will be just out of shot there. He's in 12th position, the young Queenslander, so doing a good job. This is tight here though. McDougall in the Yellow Quench VT. He's under siege at the moment by Tony Longhurst. The guys who haven't pitted are getting a good run out of their tyres. 42 laps of 161. McDougall gives Longhurst plenty of racing room.
It's going to be interesting to see which of these teams is going to try and drag it onto that 2-stop strategy. They're going to need about 53, 54 laps. Just getting out of the car. A very hot John Bow. John, we're just talking about team strategy. What can we expect here? Like, how are the tyres on your car after that first stint?
Mark, all week we've had graining tyres, and would you believe then I had a blistered one. So it's something I certainly haven't experienced before. So really a loss to explain it, but it seemed like an opportune time to change it.
We've spoken so much, John, about that the key words are conservation and the drivers, you guys have got to employ a fair bit of self-discipline. Is that hard to do out there at the moment? Do you just want to get stuck into it?
Well, you just have to drive it like with your fingertips, like you're on eggshells almost, and even then I blistered a tyre, so I think, more experience on this track would be a help, but the Commodores seem to look after their tyres a bit better at the moment.
You had a very good run here in the sprint round here at Queensland Raceway in the very first run. Has the track improved any as such with more rubber being laid down? Have you experienced that?
No, definitely not. It's if anything, it's probably become worse. It's just an unusual surface, and I think it's probably technology. They've improved the compound of the asphalt, and consequently it creates dramas with the tyres.
Quite a warm day here in Queensland. We're just over the hour mark in terms of race duration. How are you finding it in the cockpit?
Well, when you're driving that gently, it's very easy. You can drive around all day, but the problem is, once the tyre starts to give some trouble, well, then you can't actually use the car at all. So it's just one of those things you have to wait and see what happens at the end of the day.
Paul Radicic making an inside move there, so he moves up on the inside of Bargwanna. And Bargwanna has now dropped back into third, and Lowndes is right on him as well. So Russell Ingall leads the way from Radicic. Will we see Bargwanna pit this time round? Lap 44 of 161.
Well, Ingall's really picked up the pace, hasn't he? We saw them stop hovering around the 113.5, 113.9 area. Now Ingall's pulled out a quick one, a 113.1. We saw that earlier in the race. So really getting the pedal down to the Castrol Holden. Jason Bargwanna was going with him for a while, but he's slipping back in position now. So the Castrol Holden becomes the pace setter in the Queensland 500. A lot of different scenarios can unfold here. This guy is staying out there on tyres for a long, long time. 44 laps completed now.
Now, John, we saw you pit on something like lap 36. Is that in line with your strategy, or how's it all sort of sitting for you at the moment?
Actually, it wasn't in line with our strategy, but it just seemed like an opportune time if you have a pace car, and obviously was a problem with the tyre. Although I could do late 13s, early 14s, it wasn't going to improve. And the problem is when you get a blister, the tyre's liable to come apart, and when you do that, you're pitting in under a green. So, you know, at the end of the day, we'll see whether it was the right thing to do or not.
You must be rapt to have Jimmy Richards on board.
Well, he's just fantastic. I said I wish I'd have driven with him years ago. He's so good, so easy on the car. He just jumps in, drives it, gets out and goes and has a cup of tea. And, you know, he's a legend, absolutely.
I'll tell you, interesting thing to watch here, John, in the ex-Dick Johnson Racing Falcon, Cameron McLean, still yet to make his stop. 44 laps completed. He's just pulled out a 12.9, finds himself up into the top 10.
Well, yes, Cameron's a very good driver. He's done some great things all year, and although he's a privateer, he's certainly not a privateer in reality.
Here's Jimmy Richards, the B clear and simple, in-car and on-car camera. Jimmy recently crowned National GT Production Car Champion.
He's as cool as a cucumber, isn't he?
He doesn't look too flustered, does he?
No, he's great.
Just look at the telemetry on board the Caterpillar Falcon. Road speed on the left of screen, engine revolutions on the right. There's your gear change in the middle, and brake applications just there. So you can get a good idea of what's going on inside that car. It's fascinating talking to Jim about the way he drives, John. He said the reason why he thinks he's been able to remain competitive all these years is he doesn't work the car hard. He said, I just sit there, let all the car do the work and put in the minimum amount of input.
Absolutely. He's for his age, and that's not to denigrate his age, but for his age he's incredibly good, and I guess if you're born with talent, it keeps going. It doesn't go away when you turn 50, does it?
He's just an extraordinary guy. The Kiwi, 52 years young, born in New Zealand, made Australia his home back in the mid-70s, and since then he's been an absolute sensation. 6 times Bathurst winner, 2 times Sandown 500 winner, 4 times Australian touring car champion, twice Australian GT champion. There's very little left for Jimmy Richards to win, and yet he still enjoys his motorsport. Paul Radicic. Craig Lowndes, though, is the big charger at the moment, a 112.9 for Lowndes in the Mobile Holden Racing Team Commodore. He's up to 3rd position, so Lowndes really on a charge.
John, something different we've seen here today too so far. It's still early days, but we're getting the laps are clicking over fairly quickly. Something like the top 30 cars are still on the lead lap.
Well, it's even though the track surface and the tyre don't like each other, it still creates a very interesting race, and you know, it's a long way to go yet, so there'll be lots of dramas, I'm sure, which is good for you blokes.
Yeah, it's
gives us something to talk about.
Yeah, you got to try and stay with it.
Russell Ingall, here's our race leader, the Chrome Dome. Very familiar sight throughout the Shell Series in 1999. Russell Ingall looks up in the mirrors, looking very cool, calm and collected as he leads this one. A 113.2 for the Castrol Holden. Radicic matching him. A 113.27, 3.3 seconds the gap between first and second. And Craig Lowndes continuing to charge. A 112.97 for the Mobile Commodore. There he is, coming into view. It's taken Radicic, so he's up to 2nd position. He is flying.
And further back, not too far back in that shot, is Jeff Brabham, the Ford Tickford Racing AU pilot, is hanging in there. So too Tony Longhurst. Stephen Richards has been pushed back to 7th. Then McLean. Then Dougal McDougall is still hanging in there. And well done, Paul Romano in the Siemens car. He is up into 10th.
Are you surprised at the race pace, John Bower? We had everyone talking from mid-12s to mid-18s. Yeah. Is this roughly where you thought it'd end up?
Yeah, it's about where I thought it would be. Craig seems to be in very good shape as well. I don't think anybody really knows the answer to it all, and I guess next year we probably will, but whoever's there at the finish with good tyres on is going to look pretty good. That's a silly thing to say, but it's a fact of life.
It is a fact of life around here. If you can keep tyres on the car, you've got to be looking competitive. After 161 laps,
Keep in mind, 47 are coming up for 48 laps. Now that enters the brake pad change window. That is between lap 48 and lap 112. The compulsory brake pad change can happen.
Here's the guy who's going the quickest at the moment. 2 times V8 Supercar champ. He is going for his 3rd this year. He leads the series by just 22 points over his teammate Mark Scape, who has had some shocking luck today. Craig Lowndes, not too far down the track, will hand the car over to fellow Victorian Cameron McConville, who we've seen do several drives this year for the John Faulkner camp. Then he filled in for Craig when he was injured and drove the car the Holden Young Lions are driving today. He's being pursued at the moment by the number 18 Shell Helix Ford of Paul Radicic. How does that feel when you see that car going around, mate? And you drove it for so many years. Oh, problems for Larkham.
I did drive it for a long time. I had a great time for all those years, and you know, it's just life moves on, and I'm very happy to be with Caterpillar. We're in our infancy really, and I'm sure we'll make our presence felt at Bathurst and next year.
Brad Jones in trouble. We go on board the Mitre 10 Falcon. Flat tyre on the front right for Bradley. He's got to try and limp it back to the pits. Let's hope there's no suspension damage in there, but we saw John Trimble go off with a flat tyre earlier on. So this could be the story of the race.
Mark, there's starting to get quite a lot of debris out there, so that's probably why. We may see more punches as the race goes on, I think.
There's Mark Larkham on screen, just watching and wondering what has happened. Brad Jones bringing the Mitre 10 Ford in. The guys will make quick work of it if it is as simple as a flat tyre or a puncture.
Oh, it's never a nice sound when you hear that splitter on the front grinding against the tarmac. Suspension's very close to the ground there too. Greg Rust is on the spot.
Well, just in fact had a word to Mark Larkham, and obviously very disappointed at the moment. The word from Brad Jones is they don't quite know how the flat occurred. The boys of Bridgestone very quick and very keen to get their hands on the tyres so they can do a bit of analysis for it. But this pit stop, and Brad Jones looking very unhappy as well. They had a solid run at Bathurst last year until that problem with the starter motor, so this won't be pleasing him at all.
Well, when Brad came in, the car was in 30th position. Done and gone.
Yeah, he's not having a good race today, Mark Larkham. The Mitre 10 Falcon looked quite strong throughout pre-qualifying. But now they find themselves right back in the pack. Meanwhile, Jason Bright, after that early stop, is up to 13th position. He came in and stopped under the safety car period to change tyres. And he's up to 13th slot. So he's really getting a move on.
Quickest car last lap around was Paul Radicic in the number 18 Shell Helix Ford. Russell Ingall, our race leader, is in. All right, let's have a look. This will be interesting to watch the time here. So
50 laps completed for our race leader. Greg Rust is on the spot.
Well, the boys hoping to make this one a very slick stop indeed. Russell out of the car, LP in, just taking a quick look at the tyres. They don't actually look too bad. So John Bowers' comments before about the Commodores seeming to be looking after their tyres might be quite correct. Now Larry's in the car, just waiting for the rest of the fuel to go in. A full 120 litres, 19 seconds down so far. LP eager to get going. On the car, on the ground and away, 24.7 seconds.
Wow. Well, there was a time when driver changes used to hold things up, John Bow. Now it's fuel going in. It's incredible how quickly they can turn those cars around. But can you believe Perkins, after such a wretched sprint season, the way this team comes together for the Enduros?
Well, he's an expert on it, and you only have to look at his Bathurst record for that. That'll be very hard to beat. Russell's last lap before he stopped was 13 dead, so that's a good pace.
Larry reefing on his seatbelts there, getting them really tight as he comes out on his first lap. Keep in mind these tyres won't be quite up to their peak optimum operating temperature, and that'll mean the pressures are down a little bit too. So Larry feel his way around for these 2 or 3 laps. Craig Lowndes now takes over the lead. So we thank John Bow for your time, John. Best of luck in the remainder of this race.
Pleasure, mate. I hope I don't come back, really. I hope I'm out there actually going around at a better speed.
Now the big news is Jason Bright in the Pertec Ford has cracked the top 10. He was the first car we saw come into the pits, and he has now re-entered the top 10. So watch out for the Pertec Ford driver. He is on the way forward. Bright is looking good. Trevor Ashby is also in the top 10 in the Microplex PPG car, lap 52 of 161. This is how they sit at the moment. Craig Lowndes leads the way. Of course, Ingle has just brought the car in and handed over to Larry Perkins. Radicic, Bargwanna, Brabham, Longhurst. We're yet to see those guys pit. McLean, McDougall and Truckee Parsons in the top 8.
Ashby and Reid in 9th. Brighton Bed fighting back from the back of the pack. Romano and Mazira handling place 2. Kelly and Noski in the Young Lions machine. Wheel and Crick in 13th. Briggs and Lee in 14th. Cranbrook and Croswell in the top 15. Coleman and Ritter round out the 16.
Steve Johnson back in 17th position. The Bauer Richards, Cat Ford in 18th. Tratton Jones, Dillman and Cotter, the Gatorade car. Richards and Murphy in 21st and down a lap. Perkins and Ingle. Dumbrell and White, Faulkner and Wills.
Linda Price and Dean Lindstrom. Mike Emery and Crick, Forbes and Full. Nash and Wanless in 28. Seaton and Crompton a lap down after those dramas. All these teams a lap down. Ford and Wanless 2 laps down. Mark Paul and Tony Scott. Larkham and Jones 2 laps down as well.
That puncture was costly. Heath and Love all the way back to Wakefield and Canto in 40th position. Now for some news on the ultimate Bathurst experience.
Want the ultimate Bathurst experience? 10.
Welcome back to the Queensland 500, and the struggle began on the warm-up lap for Rod Nash, trying to fix a loose cable, and there they are on the grid, starting without him. Nash did finally get going, but Jason Bright, the pole sitter, began well, leading the race early. Paul Radicic a close second after a lot of bump and grind early. That's car 18, Radicic. He moved up to second and eventually took the lead for the early laps. Bargwanna second. That was Nash back on track. Here's Radicic now taking it over from Bright to allow Jason Bargwanna through as well to second. Then came the first major incident where Bright almost made contact with Bargwanna, but this is the real one. Coming up now, little touch there from the front right of Mark Scaife, championship challenger, spinning off and doing some serious damage to the front right of the car. Just how serious, he was still to find out. Bright also having some problems there too, which would later force him into the pits, but there's another look at how Scaife came off. That left Bargwanna in the lead. Russell Ingle took over second place. Paul Radicic back to third. There have been many lead changes in a race full of tactical and strategic moves. Mark Scaife into the pits. Then they found out problems with the ball joint. Serious and lengthy work, which cost him some 13 laps in this race. Osborne spins. Yellow flag comes out. Jason Bright took the opportunity here to jump into the pits himself, checking out the car. But a very early stop here, the first serious challenger in this race to make a pit stop. Have the Stone brothers come up with a strategic gem? We'll soon find out. They did it last year at Bathurst on the restart. This time it's Forbes in a little trouble. He spins the car. Nothing too serious. Rodney manages to regather his thoughts, and in the middle of all that dust, he manages to get it back on the track. Now, John Trimble's off with a flat tyre. Did cause a lot of problems. They took a long time to get the tow rope out to Trimble. In that time, Ingle took the lead. Back live now. And Larry Perkins is in Ingle's seat. Lowndes, Radicic and Bargwanna all in the pits. So we continue this fascinating contest. There's Radicic back out. Steve Ellery, I think, would be behind the wheel by now, but he's back into the pits again.
Well, second time round, and we've got one of the Valvoline Cummins Commodores coming in as well. That is the Ritter Coleman car. Now, we have got Brabham, Richards, McDougall, Parsons running in the top 4. They have not pitted yet. Jason Bright is effectively leading this race.
Bathurst all over again.
He is currently sitting in 5th position. The Pertec Ford boys are doing another brilliant job. Problems here for the 18 Shell Helix Ford.
Yeah, it just came into the pits during the break. And now only a couple of laps, maybe one lap with Stephen Ellery at the wheel. It's come back in. Problems here. Trent Hicks.
I'm down in the Shell Helix pit, and it looks as though they have rear brake problems. The pit crew are having a look at the disc, and behind the disc as we speak, and the front wheels are still on, so it's definitely not tyres. They haven't come here to do that. They're popping the boot as well. They look like they could be checking brake fluid, so there could be a problem with the brake lining somewhere.
Yep, checking reservoir levels there for the hydraulic fluid in the brakes. They might have a leak. Looks like they're going to top up those reservoirs, the master cylinder reservoirs for the brakes hydraulic system. But it looks like a problem early on for Paul Radicic and Stephen Ellery after running so strongly in that opening stint. Castrol forward of Tony Longhurst and Adam Macro in the pits as well. Don't know what's going on there. That was, I think, supposed to be a scheduled stop, but he's been in there for quite a while.
Yeah.
So drama upon drama. They said it was going to be a tough race. Well, it's certainly proving that way. What are they doing? They're putting the,
That's
air guns away.
Adam Macro just sitting there.
Goodness me.
The young guy, the former Formula Ford champ. And there is not much happening at the Longhurst pit.
Got the stricken Shell 18 Ford behind it. Yep, they're putting it up on those jacks. They're going to wheel that thing away.
Yeah.
So that's a major disappointment for Tony Longhurst.
This is happening right in front of where Ellery is sitting in the number 18 Shell Helix Ford. Greg's down in the pits with Tony.
Well, Tony, this is not what you wanted to see happen at this stage of the race. The boys are wheeling it into the garage. What's happened?
Looks like the throttle switch has moved, so I've lost the cylinder. So we're just going to plug the electronics in and just see. But, you know, so disappointing. I was doing it so comfortably and was sneaking up, saving the tyres. But, you know, it's an endurance race. This is what happens every time. What you got to do is get out there and circulate. No mistakes from the driver, no mistakes from the car, and you end up on the podium.
Hard luck.
Thank you.
Tough day here at Queensland Raceway already. So Longhurst heads back into his garage to find out what that problem is. Trent Higgs.
I've got Paul Radicic with me. Paul, everything seemed to be moving along nicely, but now you seem to have some kind of brake problem.
Yeah, everything was going along nice. We were just noosing the car, conserving the tyres, and just running into a strategy, and everything was good. We had a little bit of a long pedal to start with, and eventually it just pumped all the fluid out of the system, so we've lost hydraulic pressure. So now we've got to find out exactly where the problem is.
Do you think you'll be able to get that back out on the track fairly soon, or it's a bit hard to say?
Well, I would think so. Obviously, we just get to lose a bit of time, so give me something to chase for at the end of the day.
Oh, it's a shame, isn't it?
Never something you want to see. Brake fluid coming out. Craig Lowndes, our race leader, did it earlier on during the commercial break. And we'll just give you an update on that. It was a pretty clean stop. Cameron McConville getting in. Jeff Grech, the team manager, giving the windscreen a scrub, getting rid of all the bugs and the dirt.
Look how relaxed Craig is. Just shuts the door, bang, done. McConville in, ready to go. There's no panic there whatsoever. And that is the most effective way to complete pit stops. Out goes Cameron McConville. And a very slick job.
I'll tell you what, I was talking to him yesterday and he was saying, yeah, I reckon we can do it on 2 stops. I honestly believe it. And at that time you had to take it with a grain of salt because every driver and every team engineer was giving you a different story. But certainly the proof in the pudding. Lowndes coming in at lap 54. That's bang on target for 2 stops.
This is back live, and Jeff Brabham in the Ford Tickford Racing AU teamed with 3 times Australian Rally champ Neil Bates for this and also the FAI 1000. Currently leads the race, but is yet to pit. So too Stephen Richards, who is behind him in the Wins Kmart Commodore. Dougal McDougall in the Allo Quench VT. Now there's 1 and 2 on the track at the moment, but keep in mind these guys must pit very soon. And speaking of it, here comes Brabham.
Let's see if Stephen Richards stays out there. Yep, he's staying out in the Wins machine. So Stephen Richards continuing to circulate. First stop yet to come for the Gibson Motorsport machine. And they have been doing some wonderful jobs with fuel mileage over the years. Could that be a winning tactic today as Jeff Brabham brings it into the pit lane to hand over to 3 times Australian Rally champion Neil Bates, 34-year-old Canberra resident Greg Rust.
Well, real problems down here, Mark. Unfortunately, when Jeff got himself out of the car, he left the car in gear. He's let the clutch go as he climbed out. The back wheels kept spinning. So the boys working the back tyres couldn't get to the wheel nuts to undo the tyres. So this stop, I think you'll find, will go a little longer than expected. A few moments ago, the Parsons boys were both in as well. They changed the front pads on that car, so they're doing quite well. Neil Bates in gear, unfortunately, stalls it. But for the Ford Tickford Racing team, a stop of around about 33 seconds.
Yeah, a little longer than what they would have hoped for, but the main thing is Bright is out, Bates is out in the car now. The number 17 Shell Helix Ford, Steve Johnson bringing the car in. He's handing it over to Dad Dick in his 200th Shell Championship Series start. Trent?
We've got Queensland's favourite son jumping into the car now. Dick taking over from son Steve. The Shell Helix team working overtime here. Looks like they're just trying to get these wheels off. They're having a few problems with the rear ones as we speak. They're taking it off. They're topping the fuel up. and it's taking these tyres off now. They're putting a fresh set on. So at the moment, their tyre problems seem to be okay. I spoke to their team manager.
Yeah, well, they must be hanging in there if they brought him in on lap 62. So all sorts of tactics coming to emerge here. Stephen talking to his dad. His 200th Shell Series appearance. Not sure if the radio is working there between Steve and Dick, but he's certainly got the message, I think. So Johnson waiting for his last appearance in a Shell round in front of this big Queensland crowd. A very emotional day for the Queenslander. And they're going to get him back into action. It's been a less than flash stop. Some delays here. As Trent was saying before, there's some trouble with wheel nuts, I think. Feverish work going on the sister car, the Shell 18 Ford. Stephen Ellery still sitting in at the steering wheel, and Dick Johnson comes back out lap 62 for the Shell 17 Ford.
Now the current race leader in the Wins Kmart Commodore, Steve Richards. We wait to see Stephen pit, and he's in there now. He has come into the pit lane. So Jason Bright will take over the lead of the Queensland 500 in the Pertec Ford. Here comes the Wins boys. Look at Greg Murphy. He's ready to pounce.
Looks like he's about to run a 100-metre sprint there. Greg Rust is on the spot.
Well, aren't these guys fired up? And you can understand it, because this particular team has a history of getting good economy out of their cars, and it looks as though they're doing exactly that today. Now the team have run onto the front wheels as well, because they're going to change the front brake pads here, so they're completing that mandatory stop. Stevie's out with the hands in the air. Murphy's all strapped in, ready to go. The fuel going in. 23 seconds gone so far. The front pad's just going back in. The front tyres now going back on. This is a fairly slick stop.
Yeah, good work from the Gibson Motorsport team. Well drilled in endurance competition. Great driving combination of Stephen Richards and Greg Murphy. Murphy back out of the action. The car looking like it's running strong at this stage.
Let's not forget that the Murph picked up second at the sensational Adelaide 500. So this team very, very good at endurance racing. They are back out there. This is the car that Greg has campaigned all this year. This is the new race leader. Lap 65 of 161. He has been quickest in every single session this weekend. Practice and qualifying and the top 10. Jason Bright in the Pertec Ford. Yet to hand over to Kiwi teammate Craig Baird. A very accomplished driver in his own right. Of course, raced in the British Touring Car Championship last year. He did a stint in the Super Tourers in South Africa for BMW. We've seen him drive in the V8 supercars. Just a couple of years ago, he drove for the Shell Helix team. And he has been doing very competitive times and is a perfect match for Bright. They did not have to change one thing. So we look forward to Craig Baird getting in the car. It is Bright at the moment, and he is right on the challenge recruitment. VT Commodore, the Parsons combination, Truckee and Skippy.
Tell you what, we've just been doing our sums, and it's going to be interesting to see how long this stint lasts. They've already had their stop, but it was an unscheduled stop because of that collision with Scape, according to Campbell Little, the team engineer. If they can pump this out to lap 93, they may get away with a two-stop strategy as well.
Less than 100 laps to go, and some of these guys in... Well, we'll wait to see the Track Jones come in, and we of course know that the Richards-Murphy combination has already pitted. So that's how the top 8 look. We go back 9 through 16. It's Brabham and Bates. They're back out on the track. Faulkner and Wills, and it's Simon Wills who's doing all the work at the moment. Back shortly. Unscheduled pit stop coming up for Cameron McLean. There it is. Flat tyre. Yet another. Holds it together very, very well. What a brilliant piece of driving by the Greenfield Mowers car. That was earlier off tape. Here is another angle. Watch the back right tyre, and Cameron really had his hands full there. The Greenfield car. Now we're seeing a lot of deflated tyres. Valvoline Cummins driver Jason Bargwanna joins us in commentary. Jason, you were saying when we were off air that you believe it's not debris, it's a lot of blistered tyres.
Yeah, well, there's a number of cars. I've sort of had a bit of a wander up and down pit lane after I got out of the car, and I saw a lot of blistered tyres. I mean, mine come off looking quite nice, but yeah, I've seen a lot of blistered tyres out there.
Well, we saw the Trimble Heffernan car a short time ago have a second flat front left. Now we saw the Alan Heath entry car that was off at the outside of the main straight, whether that was a flat as well, but there's plenty happening at the moment.
Yeah, we're just doing our sums on the Pertec Ford. All trouble there for Alan Heath and Warren Luff in the Falcon. Warren Luff at the wheel, and he's just parked it down the end of, or off the pit exit lane. So the car's starting to fall pretty rapidly now. Tyres in trouble, mechanical problems. Here's our race leader, Jason Bright. We were just saying, we're doing our sums. Is he came and stopped early on lap 24, we're wondering if he could get away with a two-stop strategy, and that would require him going 68 laps. So I'll tell you what,
this is McLean in again.
Todd Kelly, who's running second, has just done 69 laps, so it is possible to do that race distance. I wonder if the Pertec boys are looking at taking Jason right out to lap 93.
Yeah.
That'll put him right back on a two-stop strategy.
Well, this is hurting the Greenfield Mowers team. McLean in yet again. And the word we get through is that the wheel actually fell off as he came back into the pits. So hard stuff there for Cameron McLean. How have you found it so far, Jason?
Mate, I'm having a ball out there. It's fantastic. I mean, the Valvoline Cummins Commodore was obviously working very well to start there, looking after its rear tyres, and I just kept on with it.
Well, we were saying that the general talk was that you couldn't afford to get caught up in too many battles if you were going to make your tyres last and to fit with your strategy. We noticed that you gave Russell Engel plenty of room and let him on by. You didn't really contest that.
Yeah, at the start of the race it was like, yeah, after you, yeah, no problem, after you, yeah, no, okay. So when Russell came up behind me, obviously the tyre was a bit cold after the restart there, and I couldn't do much about it. So
now on the track at the moment, these two cars are currently first and second, but keep in mind that Kelly, well, and pushing hard in the My Car number 15 machine, and is about to pit. He ran very wide there. Yes, he is. Yeah. Here we go. So that was very scheduled. They were going extremely long, 70 laps. So that's a big stint for that car. So now that we'll see Jim Richards move up into second position and McConville into third, and your boy Garth Tander will be running fourth. That's not too bad at this stage. No,
it's good. Obviously, we've got a plan to keep the car consistent throughout the day. Tyres are the big issue. I mean, everyone's been talking about it, obviously, and it's about a matter of looking after him. So I noticed you're saying there that Bridie can go almost to the end and do another stop, but we've got one stop to go, obviously, but I'd hate to be on his tyres at the end of that.
Pad change here for the young Lions car, Greg Rust.
The stop's been going around about 15 seconds now. Kelly is in the car, Noski out. As you said, they're doing the front pads. Just having a look at the tyres, and again, this car, this is an older model VS, the Young Lions entry. It looks like it's looking after its tyres just superbly. Boys have got the pads in, they're putting the front wheels back on. 30 seconds gone so far, full of fuel, and Kelly will be on the way very shortly.
This is, of course, the golden car that Craig Lowndes won the 1996 championship in, Sandown and Bathurst. It's also the same car that Greg Murphy clouted the wall with at Phillip Island. They rebuilt it, and it's the same car that both Lowndes and McConville raced earlier this year. Rodney Forbes putting a move on the Toll Falcon, the Trat Jones entry, and they get back out there.
Gee, I'll tell you what, Jason Bargwanna, looking at that tyre that came off that car, it looked like it was pretty healthy.
Yeah, I mean, it's not hard to look after the tyre. Obviously, speed is the determining factor, so you can push pretty hard. You can see there, obviously, that tyre's well drained, so as soon as you start standing on the power, the rear of the car steps out, so it's a bit of a nightmare, I've got to tell you.
That was Larry Perkins carving his way through, currently in 7th position, and now he's just moved up one. You can count that as 6th. Now, how is your performance at the moment going in line with your strategy? Is everything on cue?
Absolutely, and at the start of the race we sat down and we had a bit of a plan, and we just kept going at it, and I didn't actually mean to pull away as much as I did at the start there, but I just wanted to continue the pace in the car. I felt pretty comfortable, and it's working together for us at the moment.
So there was one restart there after the safety car had left the circuit where you had a massive gap. There was you on Radicic, and you had quite a healthy gap on Radicic, and it was miles back to third. Did you realise that you'd got that much of a jump on them?
No, not at all. I was just out there just doing my laps, keeping my times consistent, having a ball. I mean, I was really enjoying myself out there. Then they said, come in. I went, oh, do I have to?
I guess the critical thing too, Jason, is keeping your car in enough shape that if we get a safety car period, say 20, 30, maybe 10 laps from the end, you've got to be able to sprint for the win, don't you?
Well, that is obviously going to be an important factor. There's Garth there, go Garthy. But obviously the safety car sort of stuffed us up a bit there. I was quite comfortable with it. But under the safety car, the brakes and the tyres cool down a bit, so it makes it pretty hard.
Tander moves up into 3rd position now. That was Cameron McConville that he put the move on. McConville back to 4th now, and Tander is looking good. That last lap, a 1:14, Bright a 1:13. In fact, Jason Bright, the only car in that 1:13 bracket, but this is looking smooth. The car looks great, Jason.
It does, and it's really been working well. I mean, obviously Winton as our test track works a little bit in our favour here because the surface is the same, and if you remember back at the Winton round, I didn't have a problem with my rear tyres. I looked after them a fair bit, and Garth was in the same situation, so hey, might be third at the moment, so it's a long way from home.
How's it working with your driver changes? I mean, there's some 22 odd centimetres difference in your height. So how's your little dicky seat and the separate belts working? That's all going okay?
Yeah, we've been practicing a fair bit, and we've got it down to a fairly quick time, around 14 seconds. So the fuel's taking about 18 seconds. The tyres are taking around about the 15-second mark. So we can actually do it quicker than the guys can. Obviously, we're only going to do it one more time now. I've got to get back in and slide my little seat in there and have a bit of a go. So we'll be right.
Minor 10 lap counter, lap 75 of 161. We're clicking on through them down to the pits, Greg.
Greg can't hear us at the moment. Looks like he's getting a little bit sideways coming out of that corner. They're working the car hard. Jason Bright at 1:13.5 as he leads this race. 25 seconds the gap over Richards in second. Greg?
Well, I'm down here at the moment with Craig Baird. You've got the helmet on, ready to go. Craig, is everything going to plan?
Yeah, everything's going to plan. The car's running well. Jason's done a pretty long stint. He's just about done a double stint down there, but that's what we're planned on. So I'll jump in the car and do a long stint now myself.
There was a bit of concern from the team about one of the back tyres after that previous stop. Has he just been nursing the tyres?
Yeah, just been running the car, just making sure we're conservative on the tyres. Obviously, the first stint was difficult for Jason because it was a sort of testing period for us as well. But everything's going to plan, and the car's got quite a good lead there at the moment. So wouldn't mind a yellow in about 2 laps.
Well, as I throw back to you boys, I can tell you also the cloud cover has come over a little bit. That's dropping the track temperature slightly.
Well, we got a word earlier that it had grown to 38 degrees Celsius. Earlier in the day, we had some cloud cover, it had dropped to 28. So it's going up and down quite a bit. That'll be making the tyres work very, very hard. And I'm sure the drivers and teams won't mind it if it cools down quite a bit. Jason Bright in the Pertec Ford. We are about to see a transition. Craig Baird will step into the car. Former New Zealand touring car champ will take the Pertec Ford out on Queensland Raceway.
I like the car sliding there. It looks quite good from my point of view, I have to tell you.
You'd like to see more of that?
Tell you what, he's been doing some good times though, Jason. At 1:13.5 his last time around. That is the fastest on the track at the moment, consistently has been toward the end of this stint. So Bright really pushing the Pertec Ford hard. Craig Baird, his teammate, standing in pit lane waiting. We're wondering if they're going to try and stretch it out to lap 93 to get 68 laps remaining. But it looks like they're going to run Bright right to the end. A very, very low fuel load, take the tyres right to the end. So he could be in any lap now.
It's really hard to get a consistent lap out there with the traffic. Obviously, you're catching guys at different times. They're in a battle themselves, so you've got to weed through the traffic. And it actually makes it quite difficult to keep your time where you want to do it. Sometimes it can be blown out by a second and a half, but I suppose it's the same for everyone, so we just got to get on with it and go and have some fun.
I guess all that weaving around, that's putting more strain on the tyres than if you're just driving a nice, straight, consistent lap.
Yeah, it's more the actual cornering force on the tyre that really hurts it. You turn into the corner and you've really got to look after the tyre and you turn in. If you turn in hard, it works the tyre sideways whilst you're trying to drive it forward as well. So you try and slow the car down on the turn in, straighten the car up, get in the power hard and really punch it out of the corner.
Now the number 17 Shell Helix car back in 19th position, and Brad Jones in the Mitre 10 Ford. We saw those guys suffer some tyre problems earlier. Also, Brad is currently sitting in 20th position, so a lot of work to do. Glenn Seaton is in 13th. He has recovered. Andrew Mediki has taken over from Dougal McDougall in the Yellow Quench VT, currently running 11th. There's some guys in the top 10 who are working extremely hard. David Skippy Parsons. Skippy has taken over from Truckee. He's running in 10th. Thomas Mazira in the Siemens Mobiles. That is the Paul Romano car. Mazira is currently 9th. Simon Wills in the second of the Wins Kmart racing cars. Wills has taken over from Faulkner and is currently running in 8th. Murphy is 7th. Bates is 6th. Perkins is 5th. McConville is 4th. Tander currently running 3rd. A great job. He is so smooth. Jim Richards in the Cat Ford is sitting in 2nd. And Bright, the man on screen, is still leading the way. Larry Perkins is renowned as the enduro expert. But I tell you what, the Stone Brothers Racing and Jason Bright, they are really doing a tremendous job of late in these long distance races.
Jason Bright, very strong, qualified qualifier throughout the Shell Championship Series in 1999. In fact, the only man to qualify in the top 5 in every round. It's been a phenomenal performance by the Stone Brothers operation based on the Gold Coast. Word we hear from the pits is they're going to go for a pad change this time around as well. 77 laps completed for our race leader, Jim Richards, in the Caterpillar Ford, number 600, back in second position, 28 seconds behind the Pertec Falcon. Garth Tander and Jason Bargwanna hanging in third, 3.8 seconds behind the Caterpillar Ford.
Word from the pits, Tony Longhurst in the Castrol Ford has retired. So Longhurst is out of his home race. That is a shame. Now here we go, we've got some Ford drivers all in a row here. That is Greg Crick in the K&J Radiators car, teamed up with young Paul Wheel. Bright puts the inside move on him. Great to see Greg back. There's the Darcy Russell. Sure entry, somebody else has gone off also just in front of that car.
Oh, look, he's got a flat tyre.
That is Darcy Russell in the gravel trap, and Bright is weaving his way through these slower cars. That's got to be tough. I know you mentioned it earlier. Whoa, the inside move there by Tratt, or is it that's Alan Jones behind the wheel now?
1980 World Formula One champion making his return to V8 Supercar. Ducks up the inside of the race leader. Bright now will try and get that position back. These two, of course, drove together for the Stone Brothers operation a couple of years back. Teammates in the Sandown 500 and the FAI 1000. But now very much separate teams. Jason Bright continues on his way. Safety car is on the circuit.
Now this is surely due to that Darcy Russell incident and the other car also.
I guess we're going to see a lot more punctures, Jason Bargwanna, because there's so much debris getting dragged onto the track with all these slides.
Yeah, oh, look at that. He's just, maybe it's something other than a flat tyre. It looks like a lot of smoke coming out the back of the car, but you step offline, you can just see in the picture there, if you step offline, there's a lot of rubber and rocks and dirt and garbage all over the place. So you really have to keep the car in line, especially when you're lapping this traffic. It makes it quite difficult.
The other cars, we see the number 5 Ford Tickford Racing AU come on in. Now we should see Neil Crompton jump in the car here, Seaton to exchange, and Crompton to get in. Here we go.
So you're watching that safety car too. It came out just in front of Jason Bright. Greg Rust.
Well, pads going in, Mark, on the Ford Tickford Racing Falcon. I tell you what, a lot of flames coming from those brake pads too. Extremely warm, those pads. The boys working away there. We'll get some tyres on it very shortly. Neil Crompton in the car. Glenn Seaton out. We've got pit stop pandemonium happening here. Larry Perkins has just swung in the Castrol Commodore. And the Pertec team are standing by. Craig Baird waiting to get aboard the number 1 car.
They're all making the most of this safety car period. That happens very quick, Jason Bargwanna.
Yeah, it does. Obviously, the team manager's got to think on their feet, and it's a situation now we've seen cars run to this point in the race. But you've got to remember they've all got to stop twice. It's part of the rules. So even if you did get to halfway, you've still got to come in again.
Nobody loves endurance racing more than Neil Crompton. He's a bit of a specialist at it. He loves that. We saw him as the quickest car out on the circuit towards the end of the FAI 1000 last year, and we'll see how he goes this time round. Brake pad change for the Castrol Perkins car.
Russell Ingall heading over to Larry Perkins earlier in the race. Perkins now takes opportunity under the safety car to make that compulsory brake pad change. Just misses that air hose. Yeah. And there's penalties for cars that run over air hoses. So that was a pretty close run for Larry Perkins. He'll join the back of the queue.
If you ever wanted to see how to put 5 nuts on very quickly, that was Oscar Fiorinotto doing that. That was a brilliant job as our race leader is in the pits. Craig Baird will take over the Pertec Ford.
Craig Baird, the 29-year-old Kiwi, 3 times winner of the New Zealand Grand Prix, a specialist in both touring car and open-wheeler cars, a tremendously talented driver. Greg Rust will call the stop, and here's our race leader peeling off from that safety car period. He'll join the back of the queue. Greg?
Well, hopefully there should be a very slick stop, Mark. Jason Bright getting out of the car. The boys are going to do the front pads here. Very quickly onto, I tell you, a lot of steam coming from the front of this car as well. So these brakes are being tortured around Queensland Raceway at the moment. The Bridgestone boys having a bit of a look at the tyres, and they don't look too bad at this point in time. They look, in fact, better than the first set that came off the car in that very early first stop. Very calculated move this in terms of their early stop. Beardy's all strapped in, ready to go now. And off the jacks on the deck, just over 30 seconds, including front pads. That's a slick stop.
3 separate shots there from our helmet cam. Gary Bennett from the Pertec Ford team wearing that helmet cam for us. You can see how quickly it all happens. Brad Jones is back in the Mitre 10 Ford. More time in the pits. Of course, we saw them have that unscheduled stop earlier, which has cost them and sent them back to 20th position outright. Now they're just taking their time, doing everything precisely. There is Brad Jones sitting there. We'll be back at the Queensland 500 on your home of motorsport right after this.